a lot of especially startups I talk to think that scale essentially equates big, right? So at scale just means more revenue. So we are at whatever, 1 or 2 million ARR, and we want to sort of get to scale. So we want to go to 10, 20, 30, 40 million ARR. Great. In my book, that has nothing to do with scale at all. So scale is when your unit economics improve because you grow. So it is a relationship between improving unit economics as you get big. Getting big isn't a guarantee of improving unit economics. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it does not. So you can see, let's say, really, really small cleaning agencies like, Man, Broom, and Bucket. He will have a really high profit margin, where really, really large cleaning agencies like 1,000 people deployed in the field will have really, really poor unit economics. They will only make like 2, 3, maybe 5% net margin overall, right? So there are some things that scales really well with size. A lot of software companies do, a lot of other business models do, but it's not for every business, right? So whenever people want to scale, I usually say, sure, let's unpack what you mean and how we could achieve scale in this business model. And in my book, there are 3 types of scale. So in order to understand them, let's use the CLTV over CAC ratio, so customer lifetime value over CAC ratio, as the sort of starting point to understand how the dynamics work here. So customer lifetime value is total customer revenue minus total cost to deliver. So total net profit or gross profit from the customer lifetime value. So divided by the churn, so that's the customer lifetime, over CAC, customer acquisition cost, how much it costs you to acquire the customer. Okay, let's break it down a little bit. The first type of scale is cost scaling. So it costs me $100 to produce 1 unit, but if I produce 1 million units, then I can produce the units cheaper, maybe for $10. So as I grow in scale or scale up my business, my unit economics improve because my costs decline on a per unit basis. That is great. What does that do? Well, it allows us to have a larger margin on the thing that we sell. So if we have a large overhead in our IT infrastructure, and that has to be paid whether we have 1 client or 1 million, then if we have 1 million, then we have better profit margins on those 1 million customers. So that is where a lot of land and expand comes in, to just say, hey, let's just get to volume quickly so that we have really good unit economics. So that is usually cost scaling. Well, could we get there by also lowering our price so we can be really price competitive instead of just having a big profit margin? Sure, but that is now the option you have in the market, but that is cost scaling. The second type of scale is distribution scaling. Distribution scaling is that the larger you get, the lower your CAC becomes. So this is usually where you have virality, or different types of network spreading effects, where you say, hey, ChatGPT launches, I go and use it for like 2 minutes. I think it's awesome. And then I start posting screenshots and like OMG exclamation mark things on all my social media, which drives all my friends to also try and use it, right? So you have this dynamic where users or customers, the more there are, the more people they tell in a word of mouth fashion. That is one aspect of distribution scaling. The second could be that you have some sort of a two-sided marketplace. So you have a lot of sellers that then attracts a lot of buyers, or you have a lot of buyers that attracts a lot of sellers. So the larger you get, the more you aggregate those markets. And the third could be that the more people consume your product, the stronger that brand becomes. So for clothes brands, you see people wearing Prada in the street and you say, hey, that looks nice, maybe I should get some too, right? So this can be really, really effective, especially if you have sort of different types of logins in markets. This is especially in marketplace dynamics, where you aggregate more than 50% of the market. Then suddenly you have a distribution scale where it will always be cheaper for you to acquire another customer than any other competitor, because you have acquired 51% of the available scale in this market, right? So that can be really effective. The third type of scale is what I call product scaling or value scaling. And that is what is usually known as network effects. So that's what the telephone is. One person owning a telephone is worthless. 2 people owning a telephone is better because they can call each other. 1 million people owning a telephone is really, really good because now everybody can call each other. So the more people join the network, the more the product becomes worth, like the more valuable it is for the individual users. So with these types of scaling, you usually have a really, really slow ramp time, and then usually it increases really, really steeply at some point, and then usually it flattens out again. So there's diminishing returns at some point. But you will have dynamics where the product itself becomes more valuable so that you can charge a higher price, or you can charge the same price without investing as much into products, so your margin actually increases, or any version of that as well. So whenever people talking scale, I usually ask, well, what kind? And then I try to sort of plug it into this customer lifetime value over CAC ratio to say, well, if we have product scale, that means we can build more valuable product faster. If we have cost scaling, that means we can increase the margins of that product because our costs to deliver go down. Or if we have distribution scaling, that means our CAC drops, and then that also improves the ratio, right? So depending on what kind of scale we have, it will always improve our unit economics, but it has to work in one of these 3 ways, right? There is no other type of scale that I'm aware of, that I can think of, or that would work in some other way. Like, nothing wrong in trying to get big, but that is separate from trying to grow big in a way that actually improves your unit economics and accelerates the business overall. So that's how I think about scaling, and I do this with both when we're trying to design packaging. So let's say we're trying to design like an ecosystem, and maybe we want to make it really, really cheap or free for some people to enter because we have scale later on and we have one of these dynamics that we can unlock. That's great. So we do it in that way. And also I do it when I angel invest in businesses. I'm trying to sort of see, hey, what will happen with this model if repeated over more instances, like over time? If I just keep doing, as what they're doing right now, will it improve in and of itself? And will we get like more distribution scaling, more product scaling, or cost scaling in this model or not? Because if we can do that, then that can be a really good vehicle for deploying capital, essentially. So those are the 2 ways or instances where I use it. And I hope it makes sense to you. It's something that I sort of bring up a lot in order to sort of try to really break down when people claim scale or say we are now scaling, because often what happens is that if they just go big fast, without having actual scale, they just go big. What will usually happen in a lot of these companies is that they will encounter all these new levels of complexity that actually costs money, which actually will drive down profitability and actually will slow down growth. So you have these, if they don't manage that well and grow big in a healthy way without scale, that can be really dangerous for a company. But of course, if we do have scale, then we really want to chase that. So, know what business you're in.